Handicapper Steve here, handicapping the racing from Aqueduct Racetrack here on Sunday. It's the 1st of October 2023. Gonna look at the stakes races on this rescheduled program from Belmont the Big A. But before I get on to that, remember to please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKid5 for more selections for race courses around the world. And also join me today for my Arc de Triomphe preview from Longchamp in Paris. It's gonna be an excellent card there, so check out that preview. But the amount of rain we've had in the last week and a half here in New York City has been incredible. It was right calling off or postponing Friday's card in general, just canceling it. That was a good call. Saturday's card, it's good that they canceled it so we could get the turf courses drying a little bit for the Joe Hirsch, and also, get that track worked because, they were underwater at JFK, which is right across the belt over there by the highway, by Aqueduct, and Howard Beach over there in Hamilton is underwater too. So those tracks need to be worked on to get them raceable, and they'll probably be they'll be sloppy today or maybe muddy, but we'll have a good card today. We're gonna look at the stakes races. Let's see, which races are they? We're gonna look at stakes races 3, 5, 6, and 7. I like that they put them earlier on the card. So let's look at those races right now. And keep in mind, before I go any further, Sunday's card, which was originally scheduled with the Miss Grillo and the Pilgrim, that's going to be actually run Wednesday. So we have a rare Wednesday card outside of Saratoga on the Naira circuit. So can't wait for that. But let's look at the third race, first stakes race of the afternoon. It is the Vosburgh Stakes. It's a Grade 2 event going for $250,000 purse, race for 3-year-olds and upwards. We have a field 6 horses going 1,400 meters or 7 furlongs on the Aqueduct main track. I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to go with the 6 horse, Cody's Wish, but I'm going to take a shot with the 4 horse Accreditive also on the multi-race. But I'm going to go 6-4-3-2 in the superfecta. 6-4-3-2 super. Top selection 6 horse Accreditive. The 6 horse Cody's Wish, This 5-year-old horse by Curlin Vilmont trains. Junior Alvarado gets on this one for Godolphin. The horse's most recent outing, they tried him in the Whitney over the mile and the 8th on the 5th of August, Saratoga. He didn't get out of the gate so clearly from wide post, right? And he was very just lackadaisical. Didn't stay the mile and 8th. He finished 3rd by 10 lengths. Wide Abaro really ran terrific races, and he was running, I believe, later on in the Woodward ran a terrific second. This horse, he just wasn't getting to him that day. Refreshing back to 7, which is his preferred trip, a 1-turn mile. Mile trip is what he wants to do. He's in a better spot to win. 2 back in the Metropolitan Handicap mile Belmont, a mile on the 10th of June. He won by 3 1/4 lengths that day, and he sat back early. He moved his way wide, and he really circled the field to quicken up nicely. Went away with it. Tied career best 112 buyer. That was a very impressive run. And then prior to that, in the Churchill Down Stakes at Churchill, 7 furlongs, 6th of May, his first start of the season. He won by 4 3/4 lengths. Sometimes he's a little lackadaisical getting out of the gate, but he sat back early, a little bit wide, but at 72 cents to the dollar, he really took off clear late. And then his last race around 2 turns of, second to last race out 2 turns, came in the Brews Cup Dirt Mile at Keeneland over the mile, and he won by a head, and he had to be used a lot that day. He timed the race perfectly. Very good run. And then he won the 4-go last season, won the Hanshin. It was a disappointment that he didn't stay the mile and 8th, but coming here, he's training well at Saratoga. He could definitely win. I think a bit of an upsetter could be the 4 horse Accreditive for Ira Ortiz and Klarovich and Chad Brown. Most recently off 62 over the Wilson Miles Saratoga. He won by length that day, and he had a dream tracking trip. He was a little bit wide, but he really took off clear late. Prior to that, off the bench going 3 quarters in a lounge race, he won by 1 3/4 lengths, and again, he really took off clear. As a 3-year-old last summer, he broke his main at the end of June at Belmont, came back to run a very massive place behind Gunnett in the Amsterdam, and then something must have went amiss in the Allen Jerkins at Saratoga, where he just never really got into it and was very flat. But since coming back this season, he's really run these good races. Might have to jump quite a few buyer points to beat Cody's Wish, but I'll give this horse a shot on the ticket here in the pick 4. I believe there's a pick 4 that begins with this race, if I'm not mistaken. But to recap my selection for the third from Belmont the Big A, it is the Vosburgh. Gonna take the 6 horse Cody's Wish. Give kudos to the 4 horse Accreditive. 6-4-3-2 super. 6-4 in your multi race. We're gonna slide over to race number 5 now from Aqueduct, which is the Gallant Bloom Stakes. It's a Grade 2 event going for a $250,000 purse race for fillies, mares, 3-year-olds, and upwards. We have a field of 6 horses going the distance of ground of 1,300 meters or 6 1/2 furlongs on the Aqueduct main track. Going to take the 3 horse Undervalued Asset, 3-4-1-2 in the superfecta. 3-4-1-2 Super, top selection 3-horse, undervalued asset, 3-year-old filly by Spicetown here. Chad Brown trains, Irad Tease Jr. gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came in the Charlestown Oaks at Charlestown, 7 furlongs, 25th of August, and the horse finished second by 1/4 lengths that day. I don't know if the horse liked the wide poster. He just kind of sat back early, got into it a little bit late, but the winner really took off clear. I think with a better poster here today, not really on the edge of the turn, with a better poster, I could be more forwardly paced and get an easier trip. I think the horse could run a little bit better and get the trip to win. Two back at Saratoga, 7 furlongs and allowance race 126,000. The horse went by 3/4 length that day, and he had speed from the inside to get good position. He quickened up nicely, and he went away with an 89 bar. That was a very good race there off the bench. And then Derby week at Churchill, 6.5 and an optional 100. He finished second by a half length that day. He sat back early, was stupidly wide. He was closing up well late. He just missed, but he ran his heart out that day. And then they tried the horse in the Devona Dale prior to that, where she finished 7 by 11 1/4 lengths that day, and she just didn't stay the mile trip that day. She had a decent place in the forward gal, and she broke her main here last November quite nicely. But I think she's in a better spot here today. Some decent races as of recently. I'm gonna give her a shot. I think the 4-horse Bejoon or Begoon. I can't pronounce the horse's name right, pardon me. But, I think this horse for Edward Allard and Dylan Davis wouldn't surprise me if this horse finds the winner's circle. Most recently, Alma North at Laurel over the 6.5. She won by 2 3/4 lengths, and on the front end all throughout, she was a little bit drifting that day, but she really went off clear. I thought that was a decent run. Prior to that, she ran the Bed of Roses at Belmont over the 7. She finished 5th by 22 1/4 lengths. Goodnight Olive found her winning ways again. This horse just never really got into it late. And then, won on the soft going 6 at Belmont in mid-May. Went by 9 3/4. I thought that was a very good race, basically walking under the line. She does like a wet track. She has run race fast enough to win against these horses. She likes this track also, even though she hasn't won over it. She's run these great races here. She had a 101 buyer band Rose Veloce last November here. I'll give her a shot here on the ticket. But to recount my selection for the 5th from Aqueduct, it is the Gallant Blue. I'm going to take the 3-horse undervalued asset. Give kudos to the 4-horse Bejoon. 3-4-1-2 Super. 3-4 in your multi-race. The co-featured 6th race from Aqueduct, it is the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. It's a grade 1 event going for $500,000 purse race for 3-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 9 horses swimming on the inner turf course at the distance of ground at 2,400 meters or 1.5 miles on the Aqueduct inner turf course. Portable rails are down at 0 feet, and 8 inches of rain at JFK on Friday. If you add that up to the I think 3 inches or 2 inches we had going back to last weekend into like Tuesday rained. I think we've gotten 10-12 inches of rain in the last week. So these turf courses at Aqueduct on the Naira circuit are the newest, and they do drain quite well. So let's see how well they'll drain. But you'll see a very soft turf course. The closest we'll probably ever get to heavy here on this side of the pond. With that being said, I think you want a horse that gets a little closer. I think your likeliest winner is a 6-horse Warlike Goddess. I'm going to go 6-2-3-5 in the superfecta. Tell the truth, any of these 4 horses could probably win here, and the biggest thing will be who can handle the wet going. My top selection, 6-horse Warlike Goddess. This 6-year-old mare by English Channel. Belmont trains. Junior Alvarado gets on this one, changing from Rosario to Alvarado, which I don't think is a half bad thing. I think it's a good thing for this horse. Most recently, the Glens Fall at Saratoga, a 1.5 miles on the 3rd of August. She finished second by a neck that day, and she was very lackadaisical, sitting a little bit closer. She wanted to go. Joel didn't want to let her go, and I think that cost her. McCulloch got the jump on this horse late. She ran her heart out that day, but she needed something, a better trip early on there. Prior to that, she's not a 1.25 mile horse, especially at Belmont, which plays towards speed in the New York Stakes. The 9th of June at Belmont. She finished 6 by 2 3/4 lengths that day. She sat back early. They walked to 3/4 and 1:15-1. You're not going to close into pace like that, and she just never really got going that day. It wasn't her day to win. And then the Bewitch at Keeneland over the 1.5 miles. She won by 1.5 lengths that day, and she had a dream tracking trip. She quickened up nicely, came back with a 101 buyer. A terrific run. She ran last year in Breeders' Cup turf, and it wasn't the toughest Breeders' Cup turf we've ever had, but she finished 3rd by 3 lengths that day, and she stalked that day. She really really quickened up a lot. I didn't think it was a half bad race there, to tell you the truth. And then she ran last year's Joe Hirsch, where she won by 2 3/4 lengths that day with Jose Lezcano up. And again, really easy track and grip with a 105 buyer. That was a very good run. She likes the mile and a half. She's going to have to handle a very heavy going, but if she sits closer, she can. I'll use her on the ticket. I think her second likeliest winner here would be the number 2 horse, Soldier Rising. Most recently ran in the Sword Dancer at Saratoga for the mile and a half, and he finished second by 4 1/4 lengths behind Bolshoi Ballet, and he closed in from nowhere. I thought that was a decent effort there. Prior to then, the Bowling Green at Saratoga for the mile 3/8 ran for purse money only. He finished 7 by 6 1/4 lengths that day, and he didn't have the best of trips. Had to, around the far turn with the Rebels Romance, having a fall there, or Richard Mullen falling off Rebels Romance where the horse clipped and checked. This horse just had a little bit of a trouble trip around the turn. Probably wasn't going to win anyway there, but had a massive place being up the mark in the Manhattan and a decent place in the Manor. Finished 4th in this race last year, where he's closing up from a little bit out of it. But if this horse could sit a little bit closer, he has races where he sat closer on heavy ground, which could win here, like that 3rd June race of 2022 at Belmont. That was on very heavy ground. If he could run that race today, he could, get a good trip to win. I'll give him a shot on the ticket. Even the 3-horse Stone Age, his run on, wet ground in Europe, I don't know if he likes it so much, but he also has races that couldn't win here. His most recent races, first start stateside in the Sword Dancer, he needed the race. He was just a little bit flat that day. But, and then the races before that in Qatar, he was just never really comfortable there. And then a Chatin, he had a decent 5th, but he needed something more. And then a massive place in the Brews Cup Turf at 12.5-1. He hasn't found the winner's circle in a little bit since the Derby Trial of 2022 at Leopardstown, but he's run against some tough horses in the past. Coming here at 6-1, second off, he could win. I would use him in the pick 4 here, but to recount the pick 6 that begins with this race. But to recount my selection for the 6 from Aqueduct, it is the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. We're going to take the 6-horse Warlike Goddess, give kudos to the 2-horse Soldier Rising and the 3-horse Stone Age, 6-2-3-5 Super, 6-2-3 in your multi-race. Let's head over to race number 7 now from Aqueduct, which is featured on the program. It is the Woodward Stakes. It's a grade 2 event going for a purse $400,000, race for 3-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of, 10 horses going a lap around the Aqueduct main track, which is 1,800 meters in circumference, or a mile and 1/8 on the Aqueduct main track. I'm going to take the number 8 horse here, Tyson. I'm going to go 8-4. 8-4-3-1 in the superfecta, 8-4-3-1 super. Top selection 8-horse Tyson, 4-year-old called by Tappet. Josie Carroll trains. Javier Castellano gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came in the Jock Club Gold Cup at Saratoga, mile and a quarter, 2nd of September, and he finished third by 3 1/4 lengths that day. And he just it was his first start in dirt, and there were a lot of questions with him that day, but he had a good trip. He stalked all the way around the race course. He did handle some dirt into his face. He just couldn't stay the final 1/8 of a mile that day, but he ran his heart out. Cutting back to a mile and 1/8 is what this horse wants to do. As a good poster, Javier's probably going to get good positioning out of the gate with him. I think he could run a good race and win. He's definitely run races fast enough to win against these horses. 2 back in the Segram Cup at Woodbine on mile 16th, 29th of July. He won by 3 lengths that day, and he broke like a quarter horse out of the gate, and he really took off clear on the front end. He walked on the front end and won 12 3/4. But, it was an all-around terrific effort for him there. And then the Dominion Day at Woodbine, a mile and 1/8 on the PETA, 1st of July. He won by 1.5 lengths that day. Again, not the easiest race out of the gate. He had to come from behind, but he really closed up well. A very, very good run. Since coming up north, since that break, he's really become a great horse. Training well at Woodbine. I'm going to give him a shot on the ticket. I think your second likeliest winner here is the 4-horse Xandon. He hasn't won, it seems, since the Bluegrass, where he ran a terrific race, closing up from nowhere. Came back to run a 3rd in the Kentucky Derby of 2022. And then, he's run triple-digit buyers, just not winning. He had a massive place in the Whitney last time out, massive place in the Met Mile, massive place in the Westchester. I thought in the Cigar Mile last year, he just didn't like the going. He's a little bit wide, and, he's just a little lackadaisical that day. Also not the best rides by Rosario. And then he had a decent place in the Pennsylvania Derby. But I think getting Flavian back up really suits his horse well. Hopefully he can sit a little closer. He could definitely win at 4-1. The 3-horse Algiers for William Buick and Simon Christopher. It's a very interesting horse. If the track was dry, I think he has a very, very, very logical chance of winning. But with the wet track, that's the unknown with him. But he's handled dirt in in the UAE. He had a massive place in the Dubai World Cup. Won the Maktoum Challenge round 2 of the Mile 316s quite nicely, and those races in the UAE, not bad at all. Coming here at 6 to 1, I'll give him a shot on the ticket. He's your wise guy horse. Even the one horse Charge It, another wise guy horse. He loves Belmont. He's making his Aqueduct debut today. Let's see if he likes Aqueduct. But he has run races that could definitely win against these horses. But he's, like I said, also a little inconsistent. But 7-2, he could win. If you have that extra payroll, use him in the ticket. But it's a very exciting Woodward. These two final stakes races on the program are very wide open, and you can go a few ways here. So can't wait for them. But to recount my selection for the 7 from Belmont, the Big A, it's grade 2 Woodward. As a top selection here, we're going to go take the number 8 horse Tyson, give kudos to the 4 horse Zandon, the 3 horse Algiers, and the 1 horse Charge Rate. 8-4-3-1 Super. Like I said, if you have the extra payroll, use the 8-4-3-1 in the multi-race here in a very wide open Woodward. So good luck to all, and please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKid5. Good luck, everybody.